What do you get when you pair a nuclear reactor with BMW's small, entry-level hatchback platform? Yes, amazingly, this ludicrous car is real, and today we're going to explore exactly what makes it so special. Because you're watching QuattroCam, my name is Alex, and this is everything that makes the BMW M140i so special. Before we get into it, if you're in the market for an M140i, make sure you use a free service offered by today's video sponsor, Vehicle Score. There is no sign-up required, just enter the car's reg and Vehicle Score will pull up all the DVLA health info into one place, so you can see how your potential new purchases stack up. You can even get more in-depth reports, including undeclared write-offs, all at a fraction of the cost of other services, and with a 15% discount if you use our code QUATTRO15. Make sure to check the link in the description before you buy your next car. Who knows what you might find. So the M140i is a lot to unpack, but to get to the real roots of what makes this so-called M-Light so special, we need to look at its humble beginnings back in 1993. The world of BMW grew a little larger. Well, as it turned out, a little more compact. BMW wanted a new way to get a younger audience into the brand, and there was a tried and tested method for doing so. Make something small, light, and cheap. So that's exactly what they did. In 1993, BMW rolled out the 3 Series Compact. Designed as a new entry into BMW ownership, the 3 Series Compact was actually a great platform. Over the generations, some people have hated its appearance. And sure, it may not be the best looking BMW, but it did have one ace up its sleeve. It handled like a go-kart. Because of its short wheelbase and rear-wheel drive setup, the 3 Series Compact handled like nothing else in its class. You could also get it with a 2.5-litre straight 6, so it's a proper beamer. BMW wasn't alone in its hunt for market share amongst the day's youth. In the late 90s, Audi had their A3 and sportier S3 model, and Mercedes had nothing, but Audi did, so the game was afoot. 2004 would see the launch of a new platform for BMW, the 1 Series, known collectively as the E8X. Some of that winning recipe would remain from the Compact. The 1 Series would retain its FR layout, with its engine sending power exclusively to the rear wheels. It would have a range of engines, including the N52, another 3-litre straight 6, keeping the tradition alive, and something that would only get better as time goes on. This generation of 1 Series, however, was most notable for what it introduced. Back in the early 2000s, BMW kept all their offerings under one roof. The 3 Series encapsulated not only the saloon and touring, but also the coupe and convertible. The 1 Series would be no different. The 1 Series coupe was actually a really good looking car, even for today's standards. And thankfully for this video, it featured a model called the 135i. Now the 135i was special and had something no other 1 Series had, the N54, an all-aluminium twin-turbo 3-litre straight 6, good back in 2007 for over 300 horsepower. But if the 135i wasn't quite satisfying your need for speed, BMW had something else to offer, the 1M. Powered by an uprated N54, the 1M would put down 335 horsepower to its 3-inch wider track and limited slip differential. An extra 3 inches makes everything better, and the 1M was no different. The downside to the 1M, well, you have more chance of winning the lottery than ever owning one. As of right now, if the all-knowing internet is to be believed, only 5 1Ms are registered on UK roads, so it was epic, but rarer than a used indicator stock. But fear not. The story of a fast 1 Series is just heating up. Things really began to simmer in 2011 with the introduction of the F20 come F21. The new 1 Series, now a 3- and 5-door hatchback. Gone was the coupe, split into the 2 Series, which we have covered in another video that'll be popping out somewhere around here. Now this was a pivotal moment for BMW. Audi had taken a huge dump the year previous by unloading the RS3 onto the world and igniting a war that would continue to this day. BMW needed a response, and the F20 platform was the answer. In 2012, they released the updated M135i. With its improved N55 engine, following in the footsteps of its predecessor, the N55 was another 3-litre straight 6 aluminium engine, but this time it would get a single Borg-Warner twin-scroll turbo. This technology allows for similar performance to a twin-turbo setup, but with less weight and greater fuel efficiency. Not something you should really be worried about if you're looking at one of these cars, however. The new M135i made 315 horsepower and 335 foot-pounds of torque, all in the traditional BMW rear-wheel drive setup, again bucking the trends of the market and their rivals. And this was good enough. It gave the M135i similar power to the RS3, and despite not having Audi's trick all-wheel drive system, the BMW could better the Audi when it came to pure driving enjoyment. If you so much as sneeze in a fast BMW, you're going to go sideways faster than the economy. But this just made BMW fanboys fall in love with the 1 Series even more, and rightly so, because that engine might have been down on stock power, but boy, did it have some potential. The N55 could reliably put down over 500 wheel horsepower from some very routine modifications. Stage 1 want on an M135i would set you back around £1,000, but for this relatively cheap sum, you would unlock 400 horsepower from the N55, giving it more than enough power to roll with anything short of true sports cars. And even then, the entry-level BMW hatchback will give plenty a nearest glance in their rearview mirror. This wouldn't be the last fast BMW hatchback, but across the street, their rivals had been hard at work. The early 2010s saw the hot hatch market diverge into two distinct segments: the hot hatches pushing up to 300 horsepower and the hyper hatches pushing a fair bit more. Mercedes would be the first to lay down a marker. Remember that gopping A-Class? Well, they've updated it and brought their own AMG tweaked car to the market. The A45 would follow the RS3 in using all-wheel drive. The difference with the Mercedes would be its 2-litre turbocharged engine, putting down 355 horsepower. Audi would then unveil the 2016 RS3 with 362 horsepower. The world was going insane, but in a small corner of Bavaria, the BMW engineers had been working away, poking and prodding the M135i. The outcome was seen in 2016. Gone was the N55, and in was the B58. The B58 is a literal nuclear weapon. In the M140i, it made only 355 horsepower, well below that of its rivals. But BMW had stolen a play from the Japanese. BMW made the B58 quite possibly the most over-engineered engine on the market. The B58 was another 3-litre straight-six turbocharged engine, but it had some big differences. This engine would feature a closed deck, meaning it could handle much more power than the N55. It also had an air-to-liquid intercooler, further boosting its potential in the aftermarket space, something BMW fans would take advantage of. The stock 335 horsepower was a little conservative, but even so, a Stage 1 would yield 430 horsepower. That is nearly M4 numbers from a family hatchback. And the fun doesn't stop there. 600 and 700 horsepower builds are not uncommon. Some M140i's are even pushing 800 horsepower. Remember, this engine was selected for the latest BMW-assisted Toyota Supra, and for good reasons. Papadakis Racing even have a 1,000 horsepower B58, making it worthy of the German 2J nickname. Now, with all this power comes great responsibility, especially for UK owners. The M140i was offered with BMW's fancy xDrive system in Europe, but they decided the UK wasn't worthy. So to make your M140i less murderous, be sure to look for a car equipped with the M Sport differential. If you can't, don't panic. They can be added aftermarket. This helps manage all the power, makes the car a little less neck snappy. You could take this a little step further by upgrading the suspension, pushers and bracings to tighten up the already planted platform and really put the power down to the tarmac in a more manageable way. So the 1 Series has reached its peak evolution from its early days back in 2004 until today's M140i. The M-Lite 1 Series has been a staple of attainable power for many years, but it does come with some downsides. Early models ran the risk of injectors failing. Now, it wasn't a given, but if it did, it could take the whole engine with it. Luckily, these can be swapped out to avoid this headache. They also had some issue with their PCV membranes, which can make the car create its own James Bond-style smokescreen. This could be easily fixed, however, if caught early enough. 2018 cars also had an OPF/GPF, making exhaust swaps more difficult as a tune would be required. It is also worth noting that non-N performance exhausts would develop a little rattle, although you are less likely to find these cars after BMW upgraded the exhaust system at customers' request. Also check charge coolers on earlier models, as they can take a beating, but outside of this, the M140i is pretty solid. Gearboxes are great whether you go to the automatic or manual, and the interior is of the highest quality. One thing you cannot fix though is the previous owner. Now, this isn't exclusive to BMW by any means, but due to their attractive price point than say a comparable RS3, you can get some poorly maintained and beat up examples. M140i drivers and fast BMW drivers in general often get a bad rap because of a few dingoes, but do keep in mind when you're looking for a car, cheaper and older cars especially, as they may have been wrung out for every single mile and have significant wear on their suspension and braking components. But if you do find a nice example, you'll have maybe the last great BMW hatchback, a truly special car indeed. The new M135i is a clone. They are nice and quick, but they're exactly the same as the A35 and Audi's S3, in my opinion. So please feel free to disagree with me in the comments. And the new M140i supposedly has no room for anything bigger than a 2-litre under the bonnet, so it looks like the M140i might be going the same way as the crowd, ditching its straight-six heritage. But it's not all doom and gloom. We will do a deep dive into the new M140i when it hits the streets, and maybe BMW can surprise us. Let's wait and see. While we are waiting, why not check out some of our other videos? We cover a wide range of car content, and if you've made it this far, why not like this video and subscribe to the channel so you can be alerted when we bring out new content.